Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling something really relevant, I think, to everyone. Algorithmic bias.
It's a hot topic.
It is. How AI can make sometimes unfair decisions, even when, the intentions are good.
Right.
You send over some fascinating articles and research on this, so
Yeah,
let's just get right into it.
absolutely. Let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's uncover some of those key takeaways.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to kind of set the stage here by saying, this isn't just some, abstract tech world problem.
Right.
This is something that affects your daily life,
Absolutely.
whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
These algorithms are increasingly used from job applications to healthcare to loans, all these things that really affect us.
Yeah.
So we're going to explore why this matters.
Okay, so first things first. Let's
Yeah.
define algorithmic bias. How does IBM actually define it?
So they describe it as systematic errors, basically, in machine learning algorithms. That results in unfair outcomes. And so, it's not that the algorithm itself is intentionally biased, right?
Right.
It's that the data it learns from can be,
Okay.
and that then skews the results.
So the AI is kind of like inheriting our own biases.
Exactly.
Kind of like a kid picks up bad habits from the people around them.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, we're kind of imprinting on these machines.
Yeah.
Our own flawed ways of thinking.
Unfortunately, that is.
Yeah.
Playing out in some pretty
Yeah.
high-stakes situations.
High stakes, yeah.
We're talking about that Amazon recruiting tool
Oh, yeah.
that ended up discriminating against women.
Yeah, and, it was trained on resumes from past hires who were mostly men.
Ugh.
So it unintentionally learned to favor male candidates.
Wow. That's a pretty big whoopsie moment for AI.
Yeah, it really highlights the need to be careful about the data we feed these systems.
And we see this too in other areas.
Oh, absolutely.
We were talking before about facial recognition systems that sometimes struggle to accurately identify people with darker skin tones,
Exactly.
which is a huge, huge concern.
Absolutely. And it shows how these biases can creep into even high-tech systems, things that we think of as being very sophisticated can still be subject to these very human flaws.
Even seemingly harmless things,
Yeah.
like ride-sharing apps,
Oh, yeah.
have been kind of caught up in this. There was cases where algorithms charged higher fares in predominantly non-white neighborhoods.
It really shows how insidious this bias can be. It
Yeah.
can really permeate even the most everyday technologies that we use.
So how does this even happen? I mean, where's this bias coming from?
Well, IBM actually breaks it down into 4 main sources.
Okay.
The first, you've got bias training data,
Okay.
which was, the case in that Amazon recruiting tool example.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out. Like if the data is skewed, the algorithm will be too.
Exactly. It's like, you're teaching a child
Right.
with bad information. They're going to learn the wrong thing.
What's another example of that?
Oh, there's a fascinating example from Colombia.
Okay.
They had a crime predicting algorithm that ended up being heavily biased
Okay.
because it was trained on victim reports.
Right.
But, these reports didn't necessarily reflect where crime was highest, just where people were more likely to report it.
Ah, okay.
And this was often due to, racial biases.
Wow. So instead of helping to solve the problem, the algorithm's actually
Exactly.
perpetuating these inequalities.
It was making things worse.
Okay, scary stuff. What are the other sources of bias?
So the second one is bias in the algorithm's design itself.
Okay.
Even seemingly neutral choices made by programmers
Right.
can introduce bias.
It's kind of like baking a cake. Even if you have all the right ingredients, if you mess up the proportions or the baking time, it's not going to turn out right.
Exactly.
So it's not just about the data,
Right.
but the humans behind the algorithms.
It's the whole process.
That makes sense. Are there any examples of that type of bias?
Definitely. There was a case where a mortgage algorithm
Okay.
was found to be giving minorities higher interest rates.
Oh, wow.
And it all came down to how certain factors were weighted in the decision-making process. So, even small choices can have a huge impact
Okay.
and really disadvantage certain groups.
It is alarming. Okay, what about the other two?
So the third one is bias in what we call proxy data.
Okay.
This happens when AI systems try to use stand-in information
Right.
for sensitive attributes like race or gender.
Right.
But sometimes these proxies can backfire.
So even if you're trying to be careful and not use sensitive data directly,
Right.
you could still end up with biased outcome.
Exactly. It's like you're trying to avoid the direct path,
Yeah.
but you end up taking a detour. That leads you right back to the same problem.
Are there any examples?
Yeah, a classic example is using zip codes as a proxy for economic status.
Okay.
Seems neutral enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
But zip codes are often tied to racial demographics.
Oh, okay.
So, using them can unintentionally disadvantage certain groups.
Like a domino effect. One seemingly harmless choice leads to another.
It's a chain reaction.
And suddenly you have a biased system.
Yeah.
What about the last one?
So the final one is what we call evaluation bias.
Okay.
This is where our own human biases can creep in
Right.
when we're interpreting the results
Yeah.
of an algorithm,
Okay.
even if the algorithm itself is neutral.
So even if we manage to create a perfectly unbiased AI,
Right.
we can still mess things up with our own biases. We really can't escape ourselves, can we?
It's the human factor. It's
Yeah.
always there. It's like those optical illusion pictures.
Mhm.
What we see is often influenced by our own preconceived notions.
Right, right.
So it's really important to have, diverse teams involved
Yeah.
in evaluating AI outputs to catch those blind spots.
Okay. This is all pretty heavy stuff. I think maybe it's time to shift gears a bit and talk about why we should all be concerned about this.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of, real-world harm can this actually cause?
Well, I think for people facing discrimination
Yeah.
from these algorithms, the consequences can be, devastating.
Yeah.
One of the biggest concerns is that it amplifies existing discrimination and inequality.
Right.
Imagine being denied a loan or a job opportunity,
Right.
not because of your qualifications,
Yeah.
but because an algorithm unfairly judged you based on your race or gender or where you live.
It's almost like these historical injustices are, being baked into our technology.
Right. It's perpetuating the cycle.
It is a scary thought.
And it's not just individuals being harmed.
Right.
There are serious legal and reputational risks for companies, too.
Oh, for sure.
We've seen organizations face lawsuits, public backlash, even boycotts
Yeah.
because of biased algorithms.
And, in the long run, if people lose trust in AI systems altogether, that could stifle innovation and progress, right?
Absolutely.
Especially for marginalized groups
Yeah.
who already face systemic bias. This could further erode their faith in institutions and systems.
Trust is paramount.
Yeah.
If we lose that, then the whole promise of AI kind of falls apart.
Right.
It's really important to be mindful of the potential harms and to take steps to mitigate them.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. We have things we can do.
Oh, yeah. There are things we can do
Cool.
to mitigate these risks
Okay.
and build more ethical AI.
Right.
The key is to shift from being reactive
Okay.
to being proactive.
Okay, so let's talk solutions. Where do we begin to tackle something this complex?
Well, it all starts with the data.
Okay.
We need to ensure that the data used to train these algorithms is diverse and representative. And I really want to emphasize here that diverse data isn't about political correctness.
Right.
It's about accuracy.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that the AI understands the nuances of human experiences and prevents it from mistaking correlation for causation
Right.
in sensitive areas like race and socioeconomic status.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If the AI is only trained on data that reflects a narrow slice of society,
Exactly.
it's bound to perpetuate those biases.
We need the full spectrum of human experiences,
Right.
backgrounds, perspectives.
Okay, what else can be done?
So another key solution is to implement robust bias detection and mitigation techniques.
Okay.
This means constantly monitoring and testing algorithms
Okay.
throughout their life cycle,
Okay.
not just during the development phase.
So we can't just set it and forget it. We need to constantly be evaluating.
Exactly. It's like getting regular checkups for your AI
Okay.
to make sure it's staying healthy
Right.
and unbiased.
Mm-hmm.
One promising approach is using what we call human-in-the-loop systems,
Okay.
where human experts actually review the algorithm's decisions.
So it's like having a second pair of eyes or a second brain
Exactly.
to kind of double check things.
It adds a layer of accountability
Okay.
and oversight.
Are there other solutions we should be thinking about?
Absolutely. Transparency and explainability are crucial.
Okay.
No more black boxes.
Right.
We need to be able to understand how AI systems are making decisions,
So that
we can spot and correct bias.
Right. So we can hold them accountable.
Accountability is key.
Yeah.
And this ties directly to the need for inclusive design teams.
Right.
We need people from diverse backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives involved in every stage of AI development.
That's where diversity of thought comes in.
Exactly.
Right. Especially when we're dealing with such a complex, impactful technology. We need to make sure we're considering all angles.
It's not about being politically correct.
Yeah.
It's about building better, fairer, and more effective AI systems.
Okay. It's good to know that there's actually hope for fixing this.
There's definitely hope.
Yeah.
Algorithmic bias is a serious problem, but it's not insurmountable.
Okay.
We have the tools. We have the knowledge to mitigate these risks if we're willing to put in the effort.
Right.
But it's not just up to the tech companies
Right.
or policymakers.
Yeah.
We all have a role to play
Yeah.
in shaping the future of AI.
So how can, everyday people,
Yeah.
like our listeners, actually make a difference in this?
Awareness is the first step.
Okay.
By understanding the issue.
Right.
You're already ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
Next time you interact with an AI-powered system,
Right.
whether it's a job application platform
Yeah.
or a social media feed or a financial service, be mindful.
Okay.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
Demand transparency.
Okay.
Don't just blindly accept the results
Yeah.
without thinking critically.
So it's about being an informed and engaged citizen in this
Absolutely.
increasingly AI-driven world.
Your voice matters.
Right.
By speaking up,
Yeah.
asking questions, demanding accountability,
Mm-hmm.
you can help shape
Yeah.
the development and deployment of AI
Right.
in a way that benefits everyone.
It's good to know that we can be part of the solution here.
We all have a role to play.
Yeah,
Now
absolutely.
remember, this isn't just a tech issue.
Right.
This is a societal issue.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
all have a stake
Yeah.
in ensuring that AI
Right.
is used fairly and ethically.
You've given us a lot to think about.
I hope so. It's a complex topic, but a really important one.
It is.
I think we need to be having these conversations. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
And, it's easy to get caught up in the technicalities of algorithms and data,
Right.
but we can't lose sight of the human element here. When we talk about the impact of algorithmic bias, we're talking about real people's lives being affected.
Yeah, it's not just numbers and statistics.
Right.
It's people
It's people.
being treated unfairly,
Exactly.
having their opportunities limited because of these biases.
Precisely. And you think about the individual who is denied a loan
Right.
because an algorithm unfairly flags their zip code as high risk,
Right.
essentially perpetuating those harmful practices of redlining from the past.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to think that someone could be denied a chance to buy a home
Yeah,
or start a business
right.
because of an algorithm that's reflecting these outdated and discriminatory practices.
And it's not just about financial opportunities either.
Right.
Think about the person who is overlooked for a job
Right.
because an algorithm decided that they weren't a good fit
Right.
based on their gender or ethnicity,
Yeah.
even though their qualifications were excellent.
Like these algorithms are holding people back from reaching their full potential.
To real tragedy.
We need to make sure that everyone has a fair shot,
Absolutely.
regardless of their background or demographics.
And that's why it's so crucial to focus on solutions
Right.
and work towards a future
Yeah.
where AI is used to create a more just and equitable world.
So we've talked about the problems.
Yeah.
Let's dive a little deeper into those solutions.
Absolutely.
We've talked about diverse data sets and rigorous testing.
Right.
Are there other strategies?
Oh, yeah. There are a number of other strategies we can employ.
Yeah.
One promising area is what we call differential privacy.
Okay.
And you might be wondering, how do we, use data without accidentally discriminating?
Right. Right.
And that's where this technique comes in.
Okay.
It's like blurring those sensitive details
Right.
while still preserving the useful information for the algorithm to learn from.
Oh, okay.
So it helps to protect individual privacy
Right.
while still allowing us to benefit from the insights that data can provide.
So it's like having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah.
Using data to train algorithms
Exactly.
without compromising people's privacy.
That's a great way to put it. That's fascinating.
And it gets even better.
Oh, okay.
There's another technique called federated learning.
Okay.
This allows algorithms to learn from decentralized datasets
Right.
without actually needing to access the data itself.
Okay.
So it's like having different groups of people
Right.
teach an AI different parts of a skill
Yeah.
without ever having to share their personal information.
With each other.
Exactly.
Okay, now that's just super cool. It sounds like sci-fi coming to life.
It's really cutting-edge stuff.
Yeah.
And it has the potential to revolutionize
Yeah.
the way we think about data privacy and AI.
But how does it help with bias, though?
Well, imagine training an AI on healthcare data from hospitals all over the world.
Without having to actually transfer any of that sensitive patient information,
Mhm.
it would allow us to create
Yeah.
more robust and representative models
Right.
without putting people's privacy at risk.
So we're protecting people's privacy
Exactly.
and making algorithms more fair and accurate.
A win-win.
It is a win-win.
Yeah.
Okay, what else can we do to kind of move towards
Yeah.
a more ethical AI landscape?
Well, I think education and awareness
Right.
are absolutely critical. You
Yeah.
know, the more people understand
Right?
about algorithmic bias,
Yeah.
the more empowered they'll be to demand transparency
Right.
and accountability from the companies
Right.
and institutions that are developing these systems.
So it's not just about the technical solution.
Right.
It's about changing the culture around AI.
It's about a cultural shift.
Yeah, and making sure that ethical considerations are at the forefront.
We need to move beyond this mindset of move fast and break things
Right.
and adopt a more thoughtful and responsible approach
Right.
to AI development.
Yeah, and that means involving, I guess, ethicists,
Exactly.
social scientists
From the beginning.
in the design process.
On the design process.
Yeah, we need to make sure we're not just creating powerful tools,
Right.
but that we're using those tools for good
Absolutely.
and that we're mitigating the harms that they can cause.
And I think a key part of that
Yeah.
is fostering diversity within the field of AI itself.
Okay.
You know, we need more women,
Right.
people of color,
Mm-hmm.
individuals from underrepresented backgrounds
Right.
involved in building and shaping these technologies.
A more diverse workforce will lead to more diverse perspectives, right?
Exactly.
And a greater awareness of the potential biases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about fairness. It's about making sure that these technologies reflect the richness and diversity
Right.
of human experiences.
I totally agree. Diversity is key to innovation,
It is.
progress. Essential if we want to create AI that benefits everyone.
You got it. It's about harnessing the power of AI to create a world
Yeah.
where everyone has an equal opportunity to thrive,
And that brings us to another crucial point.
which is...
Regulation.
Ah, yes. The R word.
I knew we couldn't escape it.
It's a big one.
A conversation about policy and regulations.
Mm.
But honestly, it's a bit intimidating.
It can be.
Yeah.
It's a complex landscape.
Where do we even begin with regulating something
Yeah.
as complex and as rapidly evolving as AI?
It's definitely a challenge, but it's a challenge
Yeah.
that we must face head on.
Okay.
We can't just rely on self-regulation from the tech industry.
Right.
We need clear guidelines
Right.
and standards
Yeah.
to ensure that AI is developed
Right.
and deployed ethically,
Responsibly.
responsibly.
So what might that look like in practice? Are we talking about like specific laws?
Yeah, I mean, some countries are already starting to implement
Okay.
regulations that address issues
Right.
like data privacy,
Hmm.
algorithmic transparency,
Yeah.
and the right to contest automated decisions.
Okay.
For example, the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation,
Right.
or GDPR,
The GDPR.
includes provisions
Right.
that give individuals
Right.
more control over their personal data
Okay.
and require companies
Yeah.
to be more transparent about how they use algorithms.
Okay. That sounds like a step in the right direction. But wouldn't strict regulations stifle innovation?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's important to strike a balance
Right.
between regulation and innovation.
I mean, AI is such a fast-moving field. Wouldn't rigid rules kind of slow things down?
The goal is not to stifle progress.
Right.
It's to guide it
Okay.
in a direction
Yeah.
that benefits society as a whole.
Okay.
Think of it like traffic laws.
Right.
They might seem restrictive at times,
Yeah.
but they're there to ensure the safety and smooth flow of traffic.
Similarly, well-designed regulations
Okay.
can create a level playing field,
Mm-hmm.
promote trust in AI,
Right.
and ultimately foster responsible innovation.
Okay. So it's not about like putting the brakes
Right.
on AI development.
Right.
It's about making sure we're steering it in the right direction.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing conversation as
Yes.
AI continues to evolve,
Right.
we need to constantly reevaluate our regulations
Right.
and adapt them to new challenges and opportunities.
Okay.
It's a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
It requires input from policymakers,
Right.
researchers, industry experts, and the public.
So it's not just about lawmakers
Yeah,
coming up with rules in a vacuum. It's about bringing everyone to the table.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a shared responsibility.
Have a meaningful dialogue about how we want AI to shape our future.
We all need to be engaged in shaping
Right.
this technology
Right.
in a way that reflects our values
Yeah.
and aspirations. This has been an insightful conversation. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
Oh, there's so much more to explore.
But if we can leave our listeners with one key takeaway,
Yeah.
it'd be this. Algorithmic bias is a real and pressing issue,
It is.
but it's not an insurmountable one.
Right. It's not a lost cause.
By raising awareness,
Yeah.
demanding transparency,
Right.
advocating for ethical AI,
Absolutely.
and supporting responsible regulation,
Yes.
we can collectively harness the power of AI for good
We can.
and create a more just and equitable world for everyone.
Beautifully said.
Okay. I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
I think we have. But, this isn't just about thinking.
Right.
It's about taking action.
Yeah.
Every time we interact with an AI-powered system,
Right.
we have an opportunity
Yeah.
to make a difference.
So what can we do as individuals to make our voices heard and push for change? I mean, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by all of this.
Don't underestimate the power of your individual actions. Every time you choose to support a company
Right.
that's committed to ethical AI, every time you speak out against biased algorithms,
Yeah.
every time you demand transparency from the platforms you use,
Right.
you're making a difference.
Okay.
And it starts with awareness.
Okay.
The more we understand these issues,
Yeah.
the more equipped we'll be to make informed choices
Yeah.
and advocate for change.
So it's about being mindful consumers,
Yes,
being vocal citizens.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And being proactive
Yeah.
in shaping the future of AI.
It's about reclaiming our power
Yes,
as consumers and citizens and shaping the future
exactly.
of AI.
It's about recognizing that we're not just passive observers.
Right.
We're active participants
Right.
in shaping this technological revolution.
That's a really empowering message. It gives me hope that we can create a future where AI serves humanity
Yeah,
rather than the other way around.
I share your optimism.
Yeah.
It's a journey
Yeah.
that requires collaboration,
Mm-hmm.
compassion,
Yeah.
and a commitment to creating a world where everyone
Yeah.
has the opportunity to thrive.
Wow. It's been quite a journey
It has.
exploring all these complexities of algorithmic bias
Yeah.
and its impact on individuals and
Yeah, right.
society as a whole. I have to admit it's a bit overwhelming
Yeah.
to think about all the ways that these algorithms are
Mhm.
shaping our lives,
Mm.
often without us even realizing it.
It is. It's pervasive and it's often invisible,
Yeah.
which makes it even more challenging
Right.
to address.
But I think the key takeaway here is
Yeah.
that we're not powerless.
Absolutely not.
We can't just sit back
Right.
and let these technologies dictate our future.
We have agency.
We have a responsibility to engage with these issues
I completely agree.
and demand better
Yes.
from the systems that are being built and deployed.
We can't just be passive consumers
Right.
of technology. We need to be active shapers.
That's about reclaiming our agency.
Right, exactly.
And shaping the future of AI in a way that aligns with our values and our aspirations for a more just and equitable world.
I think that's beautifully said. It's not just about fixing the algorithms themselves.
Right.
It's about addressing the deeper societal issues that contribute to bias in the first place.
It's a much bigger conversation, right?
It is. We need to challenge our own assumptions and biases,
Right.
promote diversity and inclusion,
Right.
and create a culture that values fairness and equity.
It's a tall order,
It is a tall order.
but I think we're up for the challenge.
I think so too, and I think our listeners are as well.
Yeah, they've sent in some really insightful questions.
Yeah.
That really demonstrate a deep understanding of these issues
Absolutely.
and a desire to be part of the solution.
It's encouraging to see.
It is. So ready to dive into some of those listener questions?
Absolutely. Let's hear what they've got.
Okay. The first question is from a listener named Sarah. And she asks, what can I do as an individual to make sure that the AI I'm using is ethical and unbiased?
That is a great question, Sarah, and it's one that honestly, we should all be asking ourselves.
Yeah.
The first step is simply to be aware
Right.
of the potential for bias.
Yeah.
In any AI system that you interact with, don't just blindly trust the results. Ask questions, do your research, and look for evidence of fairness and transparency.
So it's about being a critical consumer of AI,
Exactly.
just like we're critical consumers of,
Yeah,
other products and services.
absolutely. Look for companies that are transparent about their AI development practices,
Yeah.
that have clear ethical guidelines, and that are actively working to mitigate bias.
Huh?
Support organizations
Yeah.
that are advocating
Yeah.
for responsible AI development and hold companies accountable for their actions.
Yeah. And if you see something that seems biased or unfair,
Yes,
speak up.
exactly.
Report it to the company. Share your concerns on social media. Contact your elected officials.
You got it. Your voice matters. Don't underestimate the power of individual action to drive change.
Right. Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, we have another question here from a listener named Michael. He asks, is it even possible to create truly unbiased AI? That's a big one.
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one that philosophers and computer scientists have been grappling with, for decades. And the short answer is it's complicated. AI systems are ultimately created by humans, and humans are inherently biased. We all have our own preconceived notions, our experiences, our perspectives that shape how we see the world.
So we're trying to create something perfectly objective
Right.
from something that's inherently subjective.
Exactly. But that doesn't mean we should give up on the pursuit of fairness and equity in AI.
Right.
It just means we need to be realistic about the challenges and be vigilant in our efforts to mitigate bias.
It's an ongoing process, right?
It is. It's a journey, not a destination.
Constant evaluation, improvement, adaptation.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging the limitations, being transparent about the challenges, and being committed to doing better.
I love that. It's about progress, not perfection. And I think that's a really hopeful message to end on. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the technical complexities of algorithmic bias to the profound impact it can have on individuals and society. But most importantly, we've explored the power we have as individuals and as a collective to shape the future of AI in a way that aligns with our values and aspirations for a more just and equitable world.
So well said. It's been an absolute pleasure diving into these complex and important issues with you. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of algorithmic bias. Remember, you're not just passive observers. You have the power to make a difference. Stay informed, stay engaged, and keep demanding better.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for listening, everyone.